What's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be doing the second phase of my Transformers Cinematic Universe. Let's get into it. The first film in this phase is called Megatron 2 Rising of Judgment. So this takes place about a year after Transformers 1. So Megatron is still there after he got defeated and got reborn as Galvatron, but then he also got defeated then and then thrown back in Cybertron in prison, but he was stuck in a crystal for all of them. So the whole entire movie would have to be the leading days into his trial, and his judgment is revealed. You would get his origin story and stuff with young Optimus and stuff. That'd obviously be the best things to see, because we didn't see much of that in the first film. And also, I forgot to say this in the first phase, how how he became the villain in the first Megatron film. The main villain of this film will be his split personality, Galvatron. And he has to fight Galvatron off in the final battle. And when he kills Galvatron, it permanently kills Galvatron, and then he reclaims his basic Decepticon spot. And I was thinking that he could still be a good guy, if that's even possible. But maybe that's until like the later phases. Cause until now we really haven't seen him do anything evil except for killing Optimus and nearly taking over Cybertron. Really, that's it. And finally, the last Optimus Prime movie in his trilogy, Optimus Prime 3: The Falling. So the Falling is going to be the fallout of Cybertron, or the eastern parts of it, as Eastern Cybertron is taken over by the Decepticons and Optimus Prime, and some recruits of his go out and try to stop it. And Megatron is the one who is leading the team, also with Starscream and stuff. And obviously, the final battle will be like Fall of Cybertron. We're gonna get a Mortal Kombat-esque fight against Optimus and Megatron. Megatron is gonna get murdered. His head is gonna be punched, thrown into walls, dragged around, thrown around. And for the crushing blow, Megatron kneels begging for mercy. Optimus rips off both of his arms and uses them as bats and smacks around Megatron. And then, as Megatron says, "I'll get you next time, you son of a..." Megatron's head is smited off, permanently killing him. Or so we think. His head is obviously still there, and in the post-credit scene, someone picks up his head and runs away with it. The next movie in this phase is Bumblebee 2. Bumblebee 3. Autobot on Scarvix. Scarvix is the planet where Scorponok, but in this universe, here are the main villains that actually sabotage. So let's give the story first. Bumblebee is sent on a mission to go to a different planet to deal with everything else, other Decepticons, Predacons even, and even help the Maximals. But before he could do that, Barricade and Scorponok sabotage his ship from Megatron's command, because Megatron's alive again. But he's like, I don't know how to say this. He's still a dead body, but he's still able to like say words and stuff. Basically Stephen Hawking, but he can walk. And he's like, and also Megatron's like hung up by strings and stuff, like wires, and he's not still fully alive yet. And then Bumblebee lands on Scarvix, and he's like, oh man, what did those guys do? But they were sent off in a deep area of Scarvix, which has like civilization and stuff. And throughout that civilization, Bumblebee finds Windblade. Yup, Windblade appears in this movie. I want her to appear, and I think the next movie might be about her. But she helps after some talking, since Bumblebee knows about the uh, Windblade myth. He tells her about the myth, and then she tags along with him, and then he finds out she's also a Autobot, and then they take out Barricade and Scorponok in an epic fight. Bumblebee is gonna obviously like beat up Barricade a lot, kick him around, transform into a car, and also crash into him. And then also Scorponok's gonna try to run away in like one scene, but Bumblebee in Karma like takes out his arms and says, "Headlights, do your thing," and then like points him out at Scorponok, and then jumps out of his alt form and jumps on top of Scorponok and ravages his face. Windblade obviously is going to be one of the best parts in this movie, because she is going to be in this movie. And obviously, if she's in it, you're going to have a good time. This movie would probably be like 2 hours and 32 minutes. So, let's go to the next film. The second to last film in this phase is Windblade, Mistress of Flame. So in this film, it's going to be dealing with the aftermath of Bumblebee 2. Bumblebee 3. So this is basically Bumblebee 4, if you want to call it that. But not really, it's not Bumblebee 4. It's still Windblade's film. And in this, they try to find their way to get back to Cybertron. But guess who comes back? Galvatron. And also in the post-credit scene of Bumblebee 3, I keep getting it mixed up because on my paper that I wrote for this whole thing, I accidentally made Bumblebee 2, which is Autobot on Scarvix, a 2, even though last phase it was Bumblebee 2, but let's just keep getting into it. Galvatron is back because Megatron in the post-credit scene of Bumblebee 3 was able to still, after like everyone left his like cell where he's hung up by wires that he can talk, he says, Galvatron shall return. And his whole entire body turned into the form of Galvatron. And he breaks out of the wires. And then he says, Megatron is dead. And then as he walks away from Megatron, Megatron's head just falls off and then he dies, and then Galvatron just flies away, and then that's the end of Bumblebee 2. And now they both have to deal with Galvatron. Windblade is going to have a pretty significant role in this movie, because obviously it's her movie. Bumblebee is going to have a pretty significant role in this movie, because they're still both on Scarvix, and they still have to deal with a bunch of stuff. And they're also undercover, because they're also wanted after Barricade worked with the police department. I'd say this movie is kind of like Aladdin without the singing. Like the beginning scene where Aladdin is like running away from the guards and stuff. That's what I feel like's gonna happen in this movie most of the time. So as much as they run away, they're still gonna get found. And then the final battle, Bumblebee gets knocked out, and then Windblade has to show her true potential, and then defeats Galvatron by blowing him into a wall of spikes. Galvatron's head is also stabbed through, and everything on Megatron Galvatron falls off, including his legs and arms. But his legs don't fall off. His legs don't fall off. Uh, his body slowly falls down the walls of spikes, and then his body is cut in half, and then he dies. In the post-credit scene, they somehow find a way to get off of Scarvix, and their way is unknown because they don't reveal it to us, but they say, we have found a path to Cybertron. If you can transform into a spaceship Windblade, we can make it to Cybertron within a couple of days. And then that's teasing Bumblebee 4, which is going to be the next phase's first film. So, the final movie of this is called Transformers High Moon. Transformers High Moon. Transformers 2 High Moon. Gosh, dig it. Let me erase. So far, this is only going to be a 3 teams kind of thing. But their mission is to find Megatron's killer. Even though Megatron's killer is already dead, turns out Megatron was dead before Galvatron even cut off his head. So they need to find out who killed Megatron before Galvatron. Oh yeah, by the way, Galvatron killing Megatron is all over the news. But they don't know where Galvatron is. Well, he's dead! That happened! So then, really depending on it, Wheeljack and RC try to help Optimus Prime. They've always been helping the Autobots since Phase 1. They didn't just appear out of nowhere. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But when they do appear, it always makes it worth it. RC is obviously going to transform into her car form. Wheeljack is going to transform into his car form, and that's it. Optimus is going to obviously transform into a semi-truck. But they find who killed Megatron, and it surprises them so much. Starscream killed Megatron, but before they could get Megatron's killer permanently, they get stuck on the moon. This isn't like the first act, and they gotta find out ways to get Starscream to go to the moon. And they find some way to get him to the moon. They find some way to get him to get them to the moon. To get to the moon. To get to the to get to the moon. But really, what really when they find Starscream, it's hard to try to defeat him. And what and Wheeljack ends up sacrificing himself, killing Starscream and both him by jumping into the core of Cybertron when they get back. But Wheeljack's final message is he wants both of them to get to Earth. I mean, not Earth, Cybertron before the world ends. So now they're freaking out, but they get to Earth soundly and safe. In the post-credit scene, because we're always going to lead up to, we're going to lead up. We're going to lead up to Bumblebee 4. In outer space, we see the Windblade, Windblade, Windblade and Bee are still flying out back to Cybertron, and then they both see Starscream and Wheeljack both dying. and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I remembered him." They say like, "We used to be such good partners," and then the movie ends before we could really get anything important, and then boom, that's the second phase of my Transformers Cinematic Universe. It's so far this is the second out of 7 phases. Next phase will be the third phase, and then fourth phase, fifth phase, sixth phase, seventh phase. That's it. And also, in here you can see a little teaser image of what's coming next. And I'll see you guys next time.